Hi, my name is Grace, and today we're going to be taking a look at how you can take multi-instrument measurements with DMMs in InstrumentStudio. So here today we have just a simple little circuit that we have a couple different components on that we'll be going through and taking different measurements on. So let's go ahead and get started and start with our AC voltage and current measurements. So in order to do that today, we just have a buzzer here on our circuit that will be sending a signal from our waveform generator to our buzzer to get a different sound depending on the frequency or the voltage that we're sending. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up InstrumentStudio and set our panels. So like I said, we'll be using our waveform generator for this quick test and our DMM. So we'll add those to our panels, and you'll see quickly here we've got all the buttons and triggers that you would expect to see on box instruments. And so for our DMM, if we pull down this slider, you'll see those are all the different measurements you might expect to take like we would in our box instrument right here. And so best practice for me is usually just checking our continuity of our leads just to make sure that we have good leads before we start taking any measurements. So you'll see we got a successful continuity test. It even has a little beeper just like the box instrument does. Now we're good to take some measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up for our DC voltage first, or AC voltage, sorry. We'll set that, and then let me go ahead and set these connections really quick so that we can measure across our buzzer. Okay. So then on our waveform generator, we're going to go ahead and set this to, we'll do 4 kilohertz. And then we'll go ahead and do 5 volts peak to peak. So we can go ahead and turn our waveform generator on. We're good. We're set to AC voltage, and we've got a beep on our buzzer. So we've got a successful test that we were able to, test on our buzzer. We can see the AC voltage that we're getting, and then we can, I'll pause that for now. And then we can also take a screenshot if we wanted to save that value to come back to later. So you'll see that it saved it as a CSV, the measurements that we're getting, our panel configuration, and just a screenshot to come back to later. So that's our quick AC voltage measurement. The next one we can take is our AC current measurement. And so I'm just going to make sure all of this is not running, and then go ahead and set up our circuit to do an AC measurement or AC current measurement. All right, so now I've got everything set up in my circuit to go ahead and run an AC current measurement. So I've got AC current selected here on my DMM panel, and then I can go ahead and press run, and then press run on my waveform generator. And we'll see our buzzer is beeping again. If we go ahead and change the voltage, you'll see that the level decreases. And then if we change the frequency, we'll get a change in our pitch. And so we can just easily see how we can mess with these different components here in our waveform generator panel, and then see the different outcomes that we're getting on our different measurements. And so that's just simple AC voltage and current measurements. Another one that we'll go ahead and just quickly take a look at is a resistor or resistance measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and change my setting to 2-wire resistance, and then go ahead and set up my circuit. Okay, so we've got about 220 ohms here on our resistor. So one of the other things about our DMMs is you can actually change the digits of resolution depending on what you're looking to get out of your DMM. And so if I go up to this, I can actually change my digits of resolution to say 7.5 digits, and that will actually give me a more accurate reading here on my resistor. And so one of the things that you might use that for is more digits of resolution is going to give you a more accurate measurement. Whereas if you use less digits of resolution, that'll actually give you more samples per second, but your accuracy might not quite be as well. So there's different cases when that might come in handy. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that as well. And so we've got our resistance measurement. Let's go ahead and take a look at some DC measurements. Okay. I've got just a simple battery just to show a basic DC measurement. We'll go to DC voltage, then we can go ahead and just measure the voltage that we're getting across our battery. And you'll see we're measuring about 1.2. And so those digits are going to give us, a couple more digits off of the decimal point for more accuracy. But if I wanted to maybe debug something in my system that doesn't have quite as stable of a voltage, or I'm seeing some measurements that don't quite make as sense, that's when you might change the digits of resolution to do some debugging. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that would look like. So I'm going to go back to our manual layout, and we're going to use our SMU and set our DMM in another panel as well. And so for this test, I'm just going to be sending a quick voltage step to our capacitor and then reading the voltage on there. And we'll take a look at what that looks like. So I've got channel 2 connected to my capacitor. I'm just going to step from 0 volts to 3, back to 0. And then I'm just going to change this to be a little bit longer so that we can see the full step. All right, so you'll see we've got our waveform here. I'm going to go ahead and connect my DMM as well. And that's going to be on this side. Oops. All right, so I've got this set to DC voltage, so we're all good there. I'll go ahead and press run on my SMU and turn the output on. And so you'll see that we've got our voltage step here, and we're measuring our voltage, but it's kind of all over the place, as we would expect from a capacitor. It's charging and discharging, but it's hard to really tell what's going on there. And then just for this one too, I'll show if we connect this box DMM, we're going to see that exact same behavior on the box DMM. So you should see those numbers gradually going from 0 to about 3 volts, back to 0, back to about 3. And so typically this is where you kind of reach the limitations of typical DMMs. But with our DMMs and changing that resolution and InstrumentStudio, you can actually take a look at what's going on with the capacitor. So I'm going to go ahead and put our DMM into a full panel. And you can see here that we're actually seeing our capacitor charge and discharge because we've got our digits of resolution at enough speed that we're getting enough samples per second that we can actually see that characteristic. So thanks for watching, and that was just a quick way to see simple DMM measurements and how you can do multi-instrument measurements within InstrumentStudio and see different waveforms with our DMMs. Thank you.